Hello, everybody. I'm Devendra Singh, today live with you all from the city of Bengaluru, with folded hands and my deepest reverence to the thought leaders, luminaries, guests joining in from different continents and different nations. On behalf of all the members of the Boston Pledge, I welcome you all to a very special session of the 20th anniversary Zoom conference series of the Boston Pledge. Indeed, with very special people and of course on a very special occasion to celebrate freedom of body, mind and spirit with conviction and resolve, with one agenda in mind, that is to serve the base of pyramid. First of all, on the occasion of Independence Day of India, I extend my best wishes and sincere prayers for the welfare of all. Theme of today's session is reflections on decolonization of South Asia. We have 16 speakers to share their perspectives and profound thoughts. Today's session reminds me of Swami Vivekananda's 1893 Chicago speech, where Swamiji encapsulated vastness of 7,000 years and depth of civilizations within approximately 2 minutes, 58 seconds. Drawing inspiration from this famous speech, I request all the esteemed speakers to maintain the sanctity of time frame, which is 3 minutes. Now, before I hand over the podium to Dr. Madhusudan Chakravarti, former founder director of IIT Bhubaneswar, ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, let us pay our respect to the national anthem of India.
Ruler of our minds, our nation, to you our humble salutations. You the custodian of so many, you the guardian of India's destiny. Through Punjab and Sindh, Gujarat and Maratha, Dravida, Utkala and Bengal, across lofty crests and melodies of the Vindhyas and the Himalayas, your name awakens one and all. It rests upon the melodies of the Yamuna and Ganga in harmony and swells the waves of the Titanic Sea. Your blessings we seek. Your praises replicate you as the protector of India's fate. Jai Hai, Jai Hai, Jai Hai. Victory forever to you. You call us to unite day and night, Hindus and Buddhists, Jains and Sikhs, Parsis, Muslims and Christians meek. From east and west to your throne above, we move to weave a garland of love. You who bond the hearts of so many, you the guardian of India's destiny. Jai Hai, Jai Hai, Jai Hai. Victory forever to you.
Now respectfully over to you, Dr. Chakravarti.
Good evening, friends. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, thank you. At the outset, let me wish all of you a happy 75th Independence Day of India. I must thank my friend Partho for honoring me with the privilege of anchoring this event. The Boston Pledge, as Devendra has pointed out, it is a brainchild of Partho, and it is in existence for past 20 years. I must compliment Partho for creating a group of dedicated persons. I may name a few like Puran Dang, Sultan Jahangir, Shantanu Sengupta, Devendra Singh, and many others for social cause. The group has been actively reaching out to the people across the globe in creating awareness on various issues with the focus on uncovering the inner power within the people at the grassroots. The vision of the Boston Pledge is to continually bring together goodness in global citizens who will humbly sought to catalyze sustainable development of global equity. Our goal is to create a various, equitable, and sustainable society for all humanity. Today's event is yet another effort in that direction. We are very happy today that many eminent persons, many eminent personalities who have kindly agreed to share their thoughts on this platform today. It would be my pleasure to invite them shortly in a particular sequence that we have already worked out. But before I invite the distinguished speakers, I would like to request Partho, the chairman of the Boston Pledge, to share his thoughts on the theme of the conference today. Partho, please.
Thank you, Madhu. Good evening to all of you. Good morning to my friends in this part of the world in North America. I think, firstly, again, once on behalf of the Boston Pledge and myself, I'd like to welcome to this auspicious occasion. It is an occasion for the whole region because, as you could hear from Tagore's Anthem, it is talking about the full region of the continent, and it is talking about all the faith, all the cultures, all the languages. It is indeed a beautiful diversity that the subcontinent represents to the world. So I think it is time to reflect, time to be genuine, time to be humble, yet courageous, to engage with the real issues of the region. It is a fact that as much as there's a lot to celebrate given the heritage of the region, 7,500 years, but yet we all know that it is 131st in terms of Human Development Index, which means there are 130 nations which are above that India. I think Bangladesh is 1 point higher, Pakistan is 1 point lower, but the region is not doing well. So we have to address the issues. Time has gone when we could say that India is the next superpower or the region has got all the possibilities. I'm sure those possibilities are there, but those possibilities we would be able to enjoy when we engage with the real issues, which is the issue of self-confidence, being proud in who we are. And that's why we have entitled this talk, Decolonization, Reflections on Decolonization. And we are not talking about the decolonization of the minds of the land. We are talking about the decolonization of the mind, M-I-N-D, which means how to think independently and develop systems which the region could be proud of. So I'm indeed humbled to have a galaxy of stars to speak today. We would follow certain etiquette of staying on mute until you speak. We will not debate, we will listen. This is time to listen. I know each one of you have very unique point of views. That doesn't mean the other point of view is not important. I think that's another thing India has to learn, or the region has to learn, how to accommodate multiple point of views and in the process create a symphony of thoughts. So with that, once again, thank you very much. I'll pass it on to Madhusudhan to begin the thought process. Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you, Partho. Thank you very much. Before I call out invite the speakers, the eminent speakers to speak, I think I just have to echo on what Partho has said. Today, we are here to hear each other. Everybody is going to speak his or her own mind. We are not debating anything. There will be various thoughts, varieties of thoughts, and that constitute all of us together. So there need not be any reaction from any side at this moment. We just listen to the speakers and I am privileged and honored to invite our first speaker today, Dr. Sham Pitroda, and he will be speaking on institutions to make democracy work. I just wanted to word one sentence that this subcontinent or the Asia, South Asia has been ruled by kings, monarchs, sultans, nawabs, zamindars and whatnot. And we have had a kind of feudalistic society. And with the partition, we had a new form of government, what is called democratic government. Let us hear Dr. Shyam Pastuda. Dr. Pastuda, please.
Thank you. Greetings from Chicago. It is indeed a special honor and privilege to have the opportunity to speak to this group. I would begin by saying South Asia has accomplished a lot in the last 75 years, but we could have done a lot more. The real challenge today ultimately boils down to strengthening our democracy, justice, freedom, peace, and opportunities for prosperity. I would like to focus on three key issues which all relate to building and strengthening democracy. First, institution building. In our part of the world, institutions are weak. They don't have the kind of independence, autonomy, freedom, flexibility that they deserve. Institutions respond more to the needs of the leaders than to the needs of the people and constitution. Whether it has to do with judiciary, security, universities, government offices, they lose sight of the fact that they are there to preserve constitution and not promote A or B leadership. It is a very complex issue and deserves a lot of attention. We have not spent time in building and strengthening our institutions to reflect the realities of the 21st century. Second, we have not focused on the role of the civil society. Unfortunately, civil society in our part of the world is not at the table when it comes to deciding policies and programs. Invariably, policies and programs are dictated by politicians, political parties, and business. Civil society has much broader role to play in development, whether it has to do with education, health, water, energy, environment. Unless and until civil society is at the table, you cannot really bring people at the table. And as a result, vested interests begin to form their policies to benefit them and not necessarily public. It has been a challenge. They have been given lip service, but I have yet to see the role of the civil society that civil society really deserves, including in media. We know today media is captured completely by political authorities, and as a result, the real voices of the people don't get heard. Third big challenge is scientific mindset. I find that there is very little rational, logical thinking to be able to sort out your differences across the table. When in India, I hear that cow urine is going to solve corona crisis, I worry about this kind of messages coming out from the political circles. Unless and until we begin to think of science, role of scientist, begin to develop scientific mindset, we are not going to be able to address the challenges of the 21st century. You look at what has been happening on Corona crisis. People not convinced of what the real facts are. And these facts get modulated with a lot of religious tone, hoodoo science, and as a result, people get confused. So to me, the next big challenge for South Asia, at least for the next decade, is to really strengthen our democracy by first strengthening our institutions and infrastructure related to all of the key issues, whether it is justice, education, health. Give them autonomy, freedom, flexibility to be able to do the things that they need to do and not listen to the political bosses for their personal agenda. 2, bring civil society at the table for all major social political decisions. And 3, work hard to develop scientific mindset in the community. Development will have to be from bottom up and not top down. We'll have to decentralize for all of this and not centralize. And I am very worried about the rise of populists at this point in time. I hope we all get to talk a little bit about it. Once again, I want to thank Partha and Boston Pledge for giving me this opportunity and wishing you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. According to the sequence prepared by Partho, I find that I am supposed to share my thought next. And my topic is on language, power of oppression and expression. Victors have always oppressed the people they have conquered, and the British are no exception. Among several instruments of oppression, the language appears to be the most powerful one. Alien language has the power of destroying the existing culture and giving birth to a new. The British deported our soil in 1947, but we retained their language and culture as that of our own. English, whether imposed or accepted willingly, certainly gave rise to a new culture in the Indian subcontinent, creating a class of colonized people. In the process, we have been divided in 2 distinct classes. The class that virtually adopted English as their own language grows a different identity. For them, English was the passport to the rest of the world. The language of the British gave them access to Western education and the world of knowledge and helped them to build modern India, now well known for its contribution to science and technology, industries, and even human development. Perhaps English opened up a new vista for the people suffering from the suffocating environment of the Mughals that imposed languages alien to us. The other class of people continuously struggled to retain their cultural identity and dominance of their own language, not only during the British rule, but also during the invasion of this land centuries after centuries. Language is also a vehicle of expression amongst people. All of us are most comfortable in expressing ourselves in our mother tongue. Culture develops through communication, and we communicate through the language we speak. Thus, the carrier of culture is also a language. It is natural that we love to speak in our mother tongue, engage in literary and all other activities, and develop our own culture with time. However, the moment a language is imposed on us, on the people of for their living, the ramifications of the same on the psychology, physical, cultural, and well-being could be disastrous. The rulers or the victors imposed alien languages on the people of this region over centuries. Naturally, there have been resistance everywhere to the imposition of language foreign to them. The birth of the nation Bangladesh is a vivid example of the successful resistance to such instrument of oppression. We remember
Unmute. You got to unmute.
Madhu, you're muted.
Yeah. Now, okay? Okay. The birth of the nation Bangladesh is a vivid example of the successful resistance to such instrument of vivid oppression. We remember martyrs of the Bengali language movement, and 21st February every year we observe as Mother's Tongue's Day. There have been language movement in India too as well. People would welcome alien cultures and foreign languages so long that are not imposed. The South Asian people are blessed with several rich and powerful languages that originated either from classical Sanskrit or classical Dravidian languages. Each one of us is proud of the languages of this region. The contribution of these languages are great epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata. It's a matter of pride. Kavi Guru Rabindranath Tagore got Nobel for his literary work in Bengali as back in 1913. Yet, English remains to be one of the linked languages for all of us. We cannot undo the consequences of accepting the language of the British and need to move forward. However, we cannot ignore the necessity of developing our own languages, not only for literary excellence, but also for higher education in science, engineering, medicine, and so on. Every language of this region needs all-round development. Well, in this context, I would like to welcome the decision of the government of India for teaching engineering, science and engineering in some of the regional languages. If science and engineering education could be pursued in Japanese, Korean, Mandarin, and so on, why not Tamil, Malayalam, Bengali, Marathi, and other languages? There is no denying of the fact that learning in mother tongue will lead to better understanding of the fundamentals and consequent turning out a much better quality of graduates. We need to make a beginning. Thank you for your question, Carrie.
Thank you, Madhu. Brilliant.
Okay. Partho, we have the next eminent speaker that I have, my good friend, Dr. Anil Thakur, whom I know for a long time. He is a retired educationist, former chairman of Atomic Energy Commission. Dr. Kakadgar is going to speak on prosperity and inequality. Dr. Kakadkar, may I request you to share your thoughts? You are muted.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Chakravarti. Thank you, Partha. And thanks to Boston Pledge for this opportunity to participate in today's event. I have chosen to speak on this question Is there a nexus between wealth creation and disparity? And if so, how to break it? Before I get into that question, some observations may be in order. When COVID-19 pandemic led to lockdown, one saw large-scale migration, at least in India, of daily wage workers from the very cities which gave them livelihood back to their villages. The distress was so severe that thousands of men and women resorted to even walking several hundred kilometers. Such instabilities that occasionally arise in the society are not very uncommon. With the threat of climate change, one may even see more severe disasters and at more frequent intervals. Clearly, the potential for instability has gone up, and the resilience to withstand such events has come down, even though the income might be higher today than it was yesterday. Today, the richest 1% have more than twice as much wealth as the remaining 6.9 billion people. Rising inequality in most countries has played a larger role in global inequality story since 1980. No wonder, while we have emergence of a new kind of nomadic population migrating around in search of opportunities, there are greater inherent risks and instabilities in the socio-economic fabric now than earlier. The very driver of higher economic opportunity for the poor is making rich richer and widening the rich-poor divide. While technology may be an important factor for this situation, I believe there is a need to revisit the principles of compensation for various elements of contributions along the value chain. There is a lot of element of opportunism that must go. While the compensation for use of natural resources has in past rarely addressed nature's degradation leading to growing risks like ecological destruction or global warming, the compensation for people at the grassroots, normally based on demand-supply balance, is normally based on demand-supply balance and has rarely taken into account the need for survival of these people at the grassroots. Thus, while the former enhances the risks to natural or nature's imbalance, the latter enhances the risks from accumulated distress in the society. We humans have evolved as most intelligent among the animal species, and having set up human values as we evolved, have not really eliminated the animal in us. As we garnered strength and capability through acquisition of technology, we have not been sufficiently concerned about its exploitation potential, particularly of those without inadequate access to such technologies. Mahatma Gandhi had perhaps foreseen this right in his time, and hence he had visualized a new system of education and adoption of appropriate technologies that would not upset the socio-economic balance of the kind we are witnessing today. Maybe we should revisit what Gandhiji said in today's context. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kakatkar, for sharing your thoughts. Next, I would invite my friend, Dr. Ashok Desarkar. Ashok, he has given a topic, very nice topic, Bharat Safai Karo. Ashok, please.
Thank you, Madhu. First, let me thank Partha and Boston Pledge for asking me to talk for 3 minutes. Second, Madhu and I go a long way with Partha. We used to be the hallmates and all that. And then I want to thank a guy that is not part of this process. He actually forced me to think. His name is Jeff Lewis. He's a friend and a stiff competitor to me in our business. And one day he told me, Ashok, I go to Jaipur, Udaipur all the time. And I find India to be a beautiful country, but why it is so, why can't we clean it up? He's used the word we. So I promised him that I'll take up this matter and we'll do something. Hence this reason for this project. So Devender, can you get the first slide, please? Okay, the first slide I say start with Quit India Movement. Scratch out the word quit and make it clean. So our name will be Clean India Movement. And Quit India Movement, you know, Gandhi started to get rid of British. And we're going to start Clean India Movement to get rid of the trash. Next slide, please. There's nothing to talk. There's a flag of India lying on a bunch of trash. Next slide. A kid is going through the trash. Next slide, please. A family is walking around trash and smelling, can't stand it. Next is people of extreme poor, destitute, it going through the trash to make a living. How sad can it be? Next slide. This is what we want India to be after we clean it up. Beautiful place. And last slide is, this is what we want to be proud of India and not a flag lying on trash. So this is the end of my presentation. There's not much to talk. Picture speaks 1,000 words. And I think we should all take initiative to clean India. It will bring social inequality to more quality. And a lot of opportunities can come through this process, economic process, and fundamentals of our basic rights, human rights, is attached to this cleanliness of India, that poor people are suffering, and this suffering cannot continue like this. And we can talk all we want, but we need to do this as soon as possible, not today, yesterday. And then I want to thank Devender and my son, Shayan Desarkar, to put together these slides. And Partha, thank you again. And what we are going to do is to put together a team that I know of well, Pan IIT, where I am a board member, IIT Kharagpur Foundation, where I'm the vice president, Partha is a member, and Boston Pledge. We'll put together a group of people. So this is not strategy. This is a strategy plus action item. And we pledge to ourselves that we start getting it done. Something in a short term, in next 6 months, in the long term. This is to do with technology also. Important technology, the combustion technology. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Brilliant. Ashok, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashok. Thank you.
Perfect.
Next, I wish to invite Miss Anjum Malik from Pakistan. She's an entrepreneur, implements a strategist, and consultant. She is going to talk divisions within and without borders. Anjum, are you there? Anjum?
Yes, Dr. Chakrabarti, 1 second, my
Yes.
Zoom just died. Can everyone see me?
Anjum,
Yes,
yes, yes, Anjum.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Chakrabarti, and thank you to the Boston Pledge for inviting me to this seminal occasion where India and Pakistan celebrate their 75th Independence Day. I want to start off by wishing everyone present and watching, regardless of nationality, a happy independence in whatever way that means to you all. Independence, freedom, liberty, autonomy are all goals that we strive to achieve in every part of our life. My latest achievement of independence is finally moving out of my parents' house and getting my own apartment. Is untraditional and non-conforming? Yes. But is it also liberating and freeing? You bet. I suppose the independence of India and Pakistan from the British Raj must have seemed just as untraditional and non-conforming to people back in 1947. It is considered strange even now when the many cultural and linguistic similarities for the two countries are superseded by borders. Borders. They evoke such a sea of trouble in South Asian context. And perhaps that is only human. The partition of India had life-changing consequences for all South Asians in 1947. And even now, after 74 years, the wounds are still painful. As an archaeologist, however, it surprises me to see such permanence associated with structures that are socially construed. South Asia has had a long history of borders, which must have seemed just as indestructible and permanent to those who made them. Today's borders, built on the 20th century philosophy of nationalism, are just as temporary. And with the rise of the digital era, physical borders are fast becoming obsolete and redundant. My concern today is not with the national borders that divide South Asian countries. My concern is with South Asians today, the people, who have allowed this border mentality to create divisions within themselves. Borders and boundaries are created for promoting an individual or group self-autonomy. And yet when I look at the internal health of South Asia, I see far too much dysfunction, disintegration, and implosion for comfort. We created borders for nurturing freedom and liberty, and yet our households, the most fundamental unit of our society, are being used as objects of suppression and hate. Post-COVID, domestic abuse and violence towards women have risen alarmingly. Children and minorities are fast becoming more vulnerable. Power and wealth gaps are rapidly growing. Is it that easy for us to lose our collective humanity and choose violence and intolerance as the acceptable first response? Because if it is, then we have forfeited our right to take down any borders, integrate amicably with others, and call ourselves civilized. Walls may serve to keep dangers out, but they also serve the purpose of keeping dangers in. So what do we do? Do we continue creating borders at an intrafamilial level until there's nothing left to divide? Or do we finally face our internal divisions and begin practicing self-control at a micro level before progressing on to the macro front? The choice belongs to each and every one of us, because that is the price and the accountability of independence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anjum. Next, it is my pleasure to invite my good friend Puranji Purandang. All of you know him. Puran is going to talk on problem solving and patriotism in education.
Thank
Puranji,
you.
please.
Thank you, Partho, for giving me the opportunity to all these masterminds around me. More than the population of America, much more lives in the cities and towns of India. But our educational system is flawed. They are taught just formulas and stereotype courses. India needs to ignite and excite curiosity and capability of our kids in schools and colleges. MIT's Media Lab has the mission, and I quote, "It pursues research and executes practical design and arts projects." What I mean, and engages in scholarship and criticism, unquote. What I mean is that our educational system must ignite critical thinking and spirit of inquiry. Our children in India are very smart, but they need a spark to start the engine of their latent strengths. They can be groomed to become bright, humanistic, and patriotic human beings. Our curriculum should have strong programs where they not only learn the theory, but practical skills also, so that they have the vast world of inventions and entrepreneurship all in front of them. I do not know, after all the engineering education, put a nail in the wall, but my 16-year-old grandson Rohan won all the state awards and reached the world competition in robotics. Thanks, America. I would like to open the doors of these kids in India to be the fountains of inventions and critical thinking and lead the world. What a pity. Our nation of 1.2 billion scored only one gold medal at the Olympics. I salute my friend Sam Petroda, who, by his genius, brought telephone to every nook and corner of India. India needs many, many Sams. India has produced the greatest thinkers. I am talking of patriotism. And writers like Swami Vivekananda, Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, and leaders like Mahatma Gandhi. They gave the light of intellectual and patriotic leadership to the world. Mother Teresa gave her whole life taking care of the sick in the streets of Calcutta. I see decline that kind of spirit in our young men and women. President Kennedy said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Let us ignite the lamp of patriotism in the hearts and souls of our children and teach them to create India, what Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore wrote in his poem Gitanjali. And I quote, "Where the mind is without fear and head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth towards perfection, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Let us ignite that flame in our young men and women." Thank you, Partho.
Thank you, Pural. Thank you so much. Next, it's my pleasure to invite Raj Pratha. Raj is an IT professional with 20 plus years of experience and a committed volunteer of the Boston Pledge. He is going to talk on where the words come out from the depth of truth. Raj, please.
Thank you, Madhusudan ji. First of all, my best wishes to all Indian citizens and Pakistani citizens on the occasion of 74th year of Independence Day. It's a great occasion to reflect on how we could decolonize our minds and truly celebrate the freedom that the South Asia obtained from British Raj. The story of freedom from British Raj is extraordinary, that shook the world, showing the non-violence can be a powerful means for transformation. We saw how it influenced the civil rights movement in USA, and we saw how it influenced the freedom movement in South Africa. When we contemplate these questions on what are our dreams, what we are currently, and what we need to do continually as individually and collectively, it becomes even a larger question, the decolonizing our minds. The question is how to bring, the larger question is how to bring about a systemic change and transform society to experience the total independence in all dimensions of life, such as freedom from fear, freedom for practicing religion, freedom of free speech. These are not just for few privileged elite people at the top of a society, but for the masses who constitutes the base of pyramid, who are striving to express the pursuit of happiness. A dream of virtuous, equitable, and sustainable society for all humanity. Call it as heaven of freedom. How do we achieve that? It is the responsibility, if this is a responsibility of realization of such a dream, is delegated to institutions functioning democracy by elected officials and restricted to the processes such as the elections, legislation, and planning and executing these policies, then we are merely dreaming. It's not going to come out from these merely the government organizations, because the problem is like this. The society is made up of individuals, and when we dream of a change in the society, the change should start from individuals. And unless these individuals are transformed internally, and who then takes up these democratic institutions and practice the dream of democracy, the change will not going to happen. And so there is a role for individuals, for the people who participate in democracy, who has the responsibility bigger than the institutions. So this is where how such a heaven of freedom can be achieved through a continuous expression. Connecting the people from diverse background and engaging them in a selfless activities to serve humanity, awakened by universal leadership principles. When we say the leaders, we're talking about the great leaders who inspired us across the globe, who have the common universal principles. These are leaders, for example, Abraham Lincoln, Swami Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, and Dr. Martin Luther King, to name few. What they have in common is the same underlying the spirit of consciousness powered by the universal truth, manifested and expressed in different and various and diverse actions that influenced the change for the betterment of the world. We are fundamentally inspired by the same light of consciousness. We have the vision to change the betterment of the world. And why? Selfless activities to transform individuals. Because the change that we want to see in the world, the barriers exist within us. And these selfless activities transform individuals by removing the negative impurities such as hatred, distrust, and fills the hearts with emotions of compassion, love, and universal brotherhood. So it prepares and purifies the mind to receive, to reflect, and contemplate the words emanating from the universal truths that we could see from these leaders without falling into any of the dogmatic beliefs. So when we connect inspired volunteers and engage them in such a selfless activities that transcends the self-interests, they become change agents, and they exist and participate activities across all stages of the pyramid in a diverse way. So Boston Pledge nourishes such activities and provides a platform. And I believe this is one of the very significant contribution that we needed in the globe across to decolonize our mind, where we bring the outstanding professionals from across the world and connect them and make them to participate and mentor and bring out a transformation by giving this spiritual leadership for the people. Few activities such as the initiatives such as entrepreneurial springboard program and educational springboard program are few, but there could be any activities, a simple activities that draws the diverse people together is very important. By doing so, people can understand, see each other, and see the connectedness, see the universal values, learn from others, learn other religions, other cultures, cross the boundaries, and inspire the people to bring out such a transformation. And again, I congratulate and my best wishes for the citizens of India and Pakistan on the occasion of the Independence Day 75th. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Next, I'd like to invite Jaya. Jaya is there?
Yes,
Jaya,
I'm here.
Jaya.
Are you
Okay.
able to hear me?
Yes, Jaya.
Okay,
Jaya
great.
is a technologist who believes in social service, nation building, and improving international relationships. She is going to speak on women unlocking their potential to build strong communities. Nice, Jaya,
Thank you,
please.
Dr. Madhu. Appreciate the introduction, and thank you, Dr. Ghosh, Mr. Sengupta, and Mr. Devender for inviting me to this webinar hosted by the Boston Pledge on the occasion of 75th India's Independence Day. My topic today is women empowerment in India. So I would like to start with wishing all of you a very happy Independence Day. So character, ethics, empathy, and creativity of any society is defined by women. Growing up in India, I was brought up in a culture that worshipped the female form of supreme force that governs the entire universe. Knowledge is personified by the goddess Saraswati, valor and power by goddess Durga, and wealth by Devi Lakshmi. If you look at the history of India, we have countless examples of wise, compassionate, knowledgeable, strong, and independent women who were phenomenal role models of their times. They came out of their comfort zones and broke multiple shackles to become everything the situation demanded them to be. They were strong pillars behind building successful empires, nations, communities, and societies, all while supporting their own families. In the present times, however, we observe that women are facing gender gaps and inequalities everywhere. In most regions of the world, including rural India, women receive less formal education than men, and at the same time, women's own knowledge, abilities, and coping mechanisms often go unrecognized. With the combination of patriarchal beliefs and undermining of women's abilities or resistance to diversity in the workplace, with the combination of all of these factors, women often feel discouraged to pursue a career. How could the Boston Pledge help? With the digital capabilities and innovation that the technology offers, we can build an online community and network for the underprivileged women where they can articulate their concerns and needs, discuss problems, brainstorm solutions, and collaborate to solve them creatively and effectively. The Boston Pledge can help them tap into their unrealized potential by providing them access to mentors who can train them on the digital capabilities, educate them on the necessary skill development, guide them on navigating through ambiguity, so that they can transform the way they work, operate, and function. Ultimately, they can share their success stories on how technology and innovation has amplified their productivity and enabled them become successful entrepreneurs. This will help them achieve economic self-reliance, improve their social status, uplift their morale, and feel empowered. By coming together and connecting with each other, these women can engage in selfless activities to serve humanity, bring harmony and peace in the society, and work towards a safer, healthier, and sustainable planet. I would like to conclude my speech with the Sanskrit Niti Shloka. Samaniva akuti samana hridayaniva samana mastu vo mano yathava susahasati. The English translation for this shloka is, united be your purpose, harmonious be your feelings, collected be your mind, in the same way as all the various aspects of the universe exist in togetherness and wholeness. Happy Independence Day once again. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you, Jaya, so much. Next, I'll invite Shantanu Sengupta.
Madhu, one moment. I think we somehow, Alok Sarkar was supposed to speak after Ashok, given the story that is emerging. Yeah.
Hello?
You have to introduce Alok Sarkar now.
Alok Sarkar.
He was up after Ashok De Sarkar.
Right. And Dr. Chakraborty, you would find
Yes, I'm
Mr.
very
Sarkar's
sorry.
intro.
Yeah.
Right.
Dr. Sarkar, Alok Sarkar is a fellow IITian 1964 with deep interest on nation building issues. I apologize for missing. Actually, there have been Ashok De Sarkar, then Alok Sarkar. So that could be one of the reasons why I skipped you. So Alok will speak on reasoning in daily life. Alok, please. I'm very sorry, Alok.
It's a great honor and a privilege to be invited to address such an august gathering. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Perfect.
The topic that I have chosen for today's brief talk is rational thinking in daily living. I have chosen this topic because I think it is extremely relevant to today's India in particular and subcontinent in general. Now, I am a little puzzled that the general theme for today's talks is on decolonization of the mind. This sort of assumes that the core problem is some kind of colonization of the mind. But here I would beg to differ. I have researched this subject extensively, and my finding is that undivided India's and post-independence India's problem is that there is too much imagination and too little fact driving our daily lives. For instance, we tend to think of India having been colonized only by Britain and overlook the fact that the Pathans and more powerfully the Mughals had colonized India long before that. And if we do a little self-analysis, we will find that the fault is in ourselves, not in the colonizers. India's society was hopelessly divided and could never put up a fight because it was more concerned with imagination rather than realities. Let me give you a simple example. Britain did not come to India to rule, but to trade. They were a small economy compared to the Mughal economy, and it took many years for the British, starting with Sir Thomas Roe in 1615, to even think of colonizing India. The real breakthrough in Britain of the British in India came, I don't know how many participants in this group know this, through the activity of a British middle-level surgeon who cured a pile in the groin of Emperor Farrukh Shah, the grandson of Aurangzeb, and in grateful thanks for that, the British were given the right to trade unhindered in Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha at a fee of rupees 3,000 in the year 1770. Second important, absolutely vital fact. How many participants in this discussion know that Mirzafar and the Jagat Seth group in Murshidabad and the Zamindars of what is now Calcutta invited Clive as a mercenary at a hefty fee to get rid of Siraj-ud-Dawla for them. And the fee was so high that when initially there was a little difficulty in locating Siraj's treasure, there was a lot of anxiety whether Clive would get paid at all. So the question is, did Britain colonize India, or was India so weak, divided and confused that it fell into the lap of the British, from whom, whether we like it or not, we learned a lot, because they had, based on rational thinking, from the 15th century, starting with Copernicus and Martin Luther. I won't say all the West Europeans did that, but sufficient number did to tilt the balance. And if we look at successful Indians, whether it is Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Rabindranath Tagore, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, all of them were much influenced, and not only in India, other colonies were much influenced by the correctness, the rationality of West European thought in particular, in general, and British thought in particular. And even America, its development owes a lot to the rationality of the West Europeans, on which, of course, the Americans went one better and led the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you so much. Now I'll invite Shantanu Sengupta. He's a founder member of the TBP, founder of the TBP Digital Sports, and he's a sports enthusiast. He is going to speak on sports and its impact in decolonization and nation building. Shantanu, please.
Thank you, Madhu. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So I'll start with a story. July 28, 1911. Tens of thousands of soccer fans flocked to the Maidan, the epic playground in the heart of Kolkata, to cheer for a team called Mohan Bagan. That day was special. The native team qualified to play for the IFA Shield final against the mighty East Yorkshire Regiment. Having reached there after defeating the likes of St. Xavier's, the Rangers, the Rifles Brigade, and Middlesex. In many ways, it was not a fair game. The British was well trained and equipped with their cleats and guards, their native rivals barefoot. The Immortals conceded first, but scored twice in the second half to send the country into a frenzy. It was much more than a game. In the colonized mind, sharing the stage with the British was a privilege, beating them unthinkable. Winning the game kindled a conflagration in the Indian mind that the British is not invincible. Many of the players in that team, led by Sibdas Bhaduri, came from very humble background. And that has been the story of the Indian sports for years to come. Milkha Singh, P.T. Usha, Limba Ram, Mary Kom, and most recently Mirabai Chanu has shown us that with minimal support, we can be world champions. As I watched the 2021 Olympics, I had a bittersweet feeling. We are doing better. We won several medals, this time 7 to be specific. But compared to the nations of our size and stature, we are still far behind. That's the fact. Let's accept it. There are lone warriors here and there, but as a nation, we are not very physically fit. And without that, we cannot replicate the success of the US or the Britain, the Canadas, the China and Russia. In those places, sports is not a yearly event. It's a daily affair. It is not just for the born athletes. It is for everyone. When every kid practices physical activity every single day, the breadth and depth of the talent pool becomes extremely strong. But more importantly, it creates a fit nation that improves health and fosters confidence. Those basics, along with the appropriate and adequate government support at every level, creates an ecosystem that is needed to get 100+ medals. Sitting, watching, and appreciating sports is great, but it is not enough. We have a long way to go, but in the beginning is desire. On this very auspicious day, let us take one little pledge that we can by supporting the kids who are showing promise in sports, buying them some basic equipments or connecting them with the coaches and mentors. Let this little spark someday become the story that extends our success in cricket to every other sport around the world. Thank you and happy Independence Day.
Thank you, Shantanu. Thank you so much. Next, I have, I think they will speak Sumitra and Shuman. You'd like to speak? Shuman is an IT management professional with keen interest in various social environmental issues and works from ground level up to make a difference. And they are going to speak on education for character building. Are you both of you are going to speak, Shell? Is it? Sumitra and Shuman.
Sumitra would like to start, and then I will.
Great. Okay, great.
Sorry, I was looking for the unmute button. Good morning. Yes, my name is Sumitra Sinha. Wish you all happy 75th birthday, India's 75th birthday to the TVP members. It's quite a privilege to speak to this forum and participate in this forum after listening to your speeches, your ideas, your background. Boy, I mean, now I'm quite intimidated rather. But thanks to Dr. Chakraborty, Dr. Ghosh, and TVP members for giving me this opportunity. So, as you said, Dr. Chakraborty, we have an ambitious topic: redefine, reform education system, uplifting underprivileged and character building. Sounds like a very ambitious step, right? But we are an ambitious team, right? So from the practicality purpose and manageability purpose, we have broken this theme into two parts. And I will talk about the first one, and then Shuman will address the other one. So with that clarification, I came up with a mission statement under this theme that restructure high school curriculum, or from Indian perspective, I would say school curriculum rather, to prepare, motivate underprivileged students for hands-on training, for vocational training, right? And today, being 15th August, 75th anniversary of our Independence Day, feels like the timing is right. Wanted to target the bottom of the pyramid, right, where we have a mass population, underprivileged population, not getting the custom tutorial classes, custom coaching, mentoring, preparation, right, for the targeted engineering or medical entrance exams. Not thus, they are not surviving the brutal competitive admission process for higher education, right? They are just simply getting lost without any skill set in the unemployment pool, right? Being a number, being a statistics. So like to explore an initiative, a platform where we can prepare, motivate this population for hands-on training, vocational training. They can get skill sets, they can develop skill sets like tailoring, plumbing, carpentry skills to make a decent living, right? And most importantly, live towards a financial freedom, right? Who doesn't want that, right? At the end of the day, I mean, we all dream for our financial freedom, have our own family, be independent and support our family. For implementation perspective, I would say I like to utilize TBP's connections, networking to identify a number of schools in rural areas, run a small pilot program. If we can work through the details, gather the information and lessons learned, then we can scale it up and implement it across the board. And TBP can help us a lot. I have been attending a few meetings, TBP meetings. I've been hearing about the digital platform. We can leverage the same platform to provide the access part, to provide the access to this mass population that we are targeting, distribute the questionnaire, the surveys to gather their requirements, and then cater their needs and put them through a program, right, for a successful completion. So that's what I have. Again, want to thank you for this opportunity and wish you all a happy Independence Day.
I will quickly touch upon the next part of it. Thank you, Dr. Chakraborty and Dr. Ghosh, for giving me the opportunity. My focus would be education for the character building. Now, if we look at the India's current education system context, definitely it has given millions to establish their potential in various fields. But if we look at from the nation building perspective, I think we don't have many role models at this stage. So if we follow Swami Vivekananda's principle that a strong nation is built by the strong character. So that's where perhaps we need to think or go beyond I and me culture to we and us culture. Now, character building is an umbrella term. It has various cogs in the wheel like morality, the surveys, the teamwork, the responsibility, the knowledge, the cooperation instead of always competition. That together builds the character and also helps uplift not only the base of the pyramid, but the nation as a whole. So net, what we need is a socially oriented way. Now, how can we do that? The thought process we have at this stage is think big, start small or medium, and then scale it up. And the other principle is we have to change the current education system because a parallel system going to a couple of villages or target a few cities, that may not help. So from that perspective, if we revise the curriculum for the kids and the young, not for the rote learning, but also that will be a playful, interactive, so that will influence their habits, which in turn will influence their character. Now, in order to do that, we need to influence the education system and the ministry so that we can brainstorm and revise the current curriculum that stays long and mold the kids and the young so that we have a better mindset. It's a journey, it's not a destination. So that's our high-level thought process. How can TBP help? We would like to utilize the strong network and the connections of the TBP so that we can talk to the ministry, maybe at a state level, or talk to the educationists so that brainstorm ideas as well as influence and design the curriculum for not only kids, but also the young, so that we can think about how this revised curriculum at a kids level onwards that will impact their actions, which in turn will gives rise to the habits, and habits in turn will change the character over time. So we do have some implementable programs in our mind. We are happy to discuss at length later, but that's our thought process. And once again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sumitra. Thank you, Suman. Now it's my pleasure to invite our own Devinder Singh. He is creating sustainable livelihood opportunities in rural India. He is a core member of the Boston Press. Actually, he is the younger member of the Boston Press who is driving, and we all depend on him. We have become old. So now he will take the, we'll pass on the baton to him maybe at a later date. But Devinder, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chakraborty, for this opportunity to speak. Well, we all know about the challenges that the entire humankind is going through. And today I'm not going to talk about the challenges, but about few solutions that I have been working upon. My father told me once that for a family to grow, all the members must contribute meaningfully, complement each other's efforts. I asked myself, is this nation not a family? Is this world not a family? Can this world afford to prosper without including the 70% of its folks from lower socioeconomic background? I think we must unlock rural potential for glory of humanity. Moving in this direction, I started a program called Glory, where we are trying to redefine glory as growth and livelihood opportunities for rural youth. And it is likely to impact over 100,000 rural folks by December 2022. It is a unique collaboration platform for conscious organizations and individuals to harness the collective power of human endeavors and co-create opportunities of growth with focus on value creation for all the partners and stakeholders. And it is in sync with 17th Sustainable Development Goal of the United Nations. We are doing something very simple. On one hand, we are building an ecosystem of growth for cooperatives, self-help groups, small farmers, rural entrepreneurs, women and differently abled entrepreneurs, artisans, craftsmen, painters, and musicians from Kerala, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Odisha, Bihar, Northeast, and other parts of India, who are engaged in traditional, organic, eco-friendly, handcrafted, indigenous, made in Bharat products. We are supporting them with three things. First is the marketing. The second support that we are rendering to them is we are upskilling them. We are building their complementing skills. And the third, we are building the basic infrastructure for training and production. Now, this is what we have been doing. And on the other side, we are opening this platform for conscious organizations and individuals to build a transforming force to unlock the rural potential of India through an online campaign called An Oath for Glory of Bharat. Now, the idea is to sensitize 1 million organizations and individuals to use their purchase power to preserve rich culture and heritage by supporting the tradition of eco-friendly and handcrafted products of various parts of India, thereby creating sustainable livelihood opportunities. And this is based on the universal principles. It goes like this: earn with dignity, be grateful, and share with humility. Now, I would like to share a very short video of the organization Will Flow, which is With Love for Loved Ones. And this is an organization where we have created close to 450 sustainable livelihood opportunities. And this model is now ready to get replicated in different parts of the world. So I'm going to share the video, short video with you all.
Wilflow's objective is to make eco-friendly, indigenous, handcrafted products accessible to the whole world. We make bags made of jute, cotton, canvas, bamboo and banana fiber, proudly labeled as Made in Bharat. The mission is to create sustainable livelihood opportunities in rural and urban parts of India, enabling people earn livelihood with dignity. Wilflow is with love for loved ones, for the sake of love of people, environment, and diverse cultures. We believe every human being has possibilities infinite. We simply create value and opportunities for everyone around us. We envision to nurture traditional handicraft businesses of India. We train people from lower socioeconomic background and differently abled community. We train people. We set up training and manufacturing facilities in villages, help manage production, marketing, and promotion of products of rural India. In this era of COVID-19, we humbly stand by the side of people and organizations in the service of humankind. To promote local talent, on 8th March 2020, on the occasion of International Women's Day, we created opportunities for 8 women artists to showcase their talent. They painted canvas of humanity. The 9 beautiful paintings of the first series of the canvas of humanity are for sale. The proceedings would go towards the causes Wilflow stand for. Wilflow is in the business of doing good. That's possible only with you by our side.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Devinder. Thank you so much. I have to invite Dr. Ram Vogel. He is the chairman of Applied Innovation Technology Group, educationist and entrepreneur. And he will be speaking on energizing small and medium-sized enterprises. Dr. Vogel, please.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak and express my thoughts on small and medium industry in India. As you probably know, small and medium enterprises actually contribute to innovation, very cost-effective solutions to local challenges. They create more jobs per million rupees invested, and they actually contribute a lot to the manufactured good exports from the country. They are adopting digital technologies and actually becoming reliable sources. They are also participating in local development projects, being family-owned or individually owned. A typical small medium enterprise is promoted by either one person or a couple of persons who have some innovative idea or some business idea. And they bring with them some domain knowledge and experience in either technology or finance or man management, but lack expertise and domain knowledge in many other areas which are absolutely essential for sustaining a business and making it successful. So their challenges are survival in first 1,000 days, growing in the next phase, and then sustaining beyond a certain number of years and growing to a size to grow out of SME sector. The promoters do not have all the knowledge and they do not get an opportunity to acquire this knowledge while they are working on the SMEs. So what I propose and expect from Boston College is to develop course contents and based on case studies of SMEs and actually implement courses, short-term courses, which the entrepreneurs can attend for say 3 days to 7 days and create domain knowledge in all sectors which are required for running a successful business. Actually, most of the business schools are imparting knowledge which is required to run a large scale organization. And most of the case studies are based on large scale organizations and most probably in countries other than the South Asian countries, which actually need this domain knowledge. So what I expect from this group, August group, is develop academic inputs, course contents, design courses, short-term courses, and make them available if possible on digital platforms so that people who are engaged, already engaged in running SMEs can actually acquire domain knowledge in wherever they are not experts, and aspiring entrepreneurs can undergo these trainings so that their businesses could be very stable from the word go. Thank you again for actually giving me this opportunity, and I greet all of you on the occasion of 75th Independence Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vogel. Thank you so much. Now it's my pleasure inviting Shahana. Shahana Singh, author, commentator, and historian. I've heard her earlier. It will be my pleasure to hear her again. She is going to talk on revival of civilization pride. Shahana, please.
Namaste from Houston. Thank you for inviting me and wish you all a very happy Independence Day. I speak as a grateful inheritor of a civilization that was breathtakingly luminous. There was no South Asia back in those times when all the land to the east of the Indus River was called India or Hindustan. So there was a basic common culture that was evident to all the foreigners who came to this region. So back in that time, I think South Asia would have been a very alien concept. So the common thread that the foreigners found in this whole region is not surprising because our teachers, our gurus, they were traveling all over the region. So there were gurukulas, viharas, temple universities, mathas, what have you, different kinds of educational institutions that were customized to the local population as well as to the outsiders coming in. So this was a time when debates were taking place between scholars of different schools of philosophy, and through them, the ideas were being churned in the society. So there was a spirit of inquiry. Deep questions were being discussed about the nature of reality. How do we evaluate whether something is true or not true? All these kinds of things were being discussed. And the foundational rules of logic, algebra, grammar, double entry accounting, so many things that we take for granted today were being formulated in Indian universities. Students from all over the region were competing to get degrees from Indian institutions. And not just that, there was a wonderful spirit of collaboration between the different universities. So for example, we had the professors of Nalanda University from the eastern part of India helping to set up the Vallabhi University in Gujarat, which is in the western part of India. And again, there were hundreds of teachers who were going out from different parts of India, north, south, east, and west. They were going to China, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Tibet, and so on. And they would settle down there and help to set up the educational institutions in those countries. So, and teachers were given the highest respect in society. So that's what it was. Unfortunately, we have got invaded and colonized. If you look back at history, there's a history of invasion and colonization. Now we can tie ourselves up into knots and talk about who is responsible for the colonization. It's we ourselves or it is they and all that stuff. but the fact remains that we are extremely colonized today. We tend to look at the world with the outsider's perspective. We have actually forgotten our languages, and we have forgotten our own unique indigenous Indic perspective of looking at things. And it has been drilled into our heads that all modernity and rationality has come from the West. This is actually very erroneous. So, and it is also very damaging to our psyche. It has actually made us slavish. So there is no harm in taking the best of knowledge from anywhere, but for some reason, we began to look down on ourselves and our own knowledge. So we are today simply not tapping into the wealth of knowledge that exists in our texts. Texts like Nyaya Shastra, Niti Shastra. Nyaya Shastra teaches all about logic, physics. Niti Shastra talks about administration, and our ancient books on science. All these are actually relevant even today. There is a lot that we can get from them. So I think that the one extremely important thing which needs attention from all of us, and especially from Boston Pledge, is reviving our civilizational pride and rootedness. We might be from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, but we must understand that we have all descended from the same civilization, which once created a knowledge revolution around the world. So we ought to share a common bond of pride and motivation. So the collective wisdom of India's civilization, and when I say India, I mean the Indic countries that we call South Asia today, that civilization continues to reveal its treasures to those who do not revile it, but approach it with curiosity. So some of you might remember Manjul Bhargava. He won the Fields Medal, the highest prize, something like the Nobel Prize in mathematics. And he won it in 2014, I think. He said that he learned Sanskrit from his grandfather during the summer vacations. He used to live in America. He would go back to India for summer vacations. So he learned Sanskrit, and he came across the works of Pingala, Hemachandra, and Brahmagupta. And then, inspired by all that, he went on to discover a new way of proving Gauss's law on binary quadratic forms. So I would like to assert that there are many gems waiting to be discovered in India's old literature and traditions, which can find relevance and spark innovation in current times. So I would love for the Boston Pledge to brainstorm ways to get our today's youth connected to our ancient Indic knowledge, to feel the pride in our common heritage, and find ways to apply this age-old knowledge to modern subjects like agriculture, management, water conservation, aesthetics, nutrition, art, and so many other subjects. I can promise you that there is a lot that you can get from our ancient knowledge to be applied to all these fields. So that's my humble submission for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahana. Thank you. Now, Partho, it is your turn. Since I have been shortly, in brief, I have been introducing all the speakers, formality demands I also introduce Partho, who needs no introduction. The only introduction I can give him, Partho and me, we went to college together in IIT Kharagpur back in 1966. Then he moved to US. He had 2 degrees from MIT, as well as one from MIT, other from Harvard. He has been a partner in McKinsey, but he had this crazy idea of forming what is called the Boston Pledge 20 years back. And since then he has been doing, I'm sure you'll agree that he's been a commendable job, because he decided that we need to reach out to the people and uncover the inherent power of people. Everyone has that power, and he has been doing that. Today's program was also his ideas. I think with this, I think time is short, so I'll now request Partho to speak, and he's going to talk on a very interesting topic. He's going to talk on nutrition. Nutrition is going to talk nutrition, physical, intellectual, and spiritual. Partho, please.
Thank you, Madhu. Firstly, my Greatest thanks from the deepest sanctum of my heart to all the great thoughts. And being the last speaker, I got very little to add, but to say that, look, given all the great ideas which was flowed today, and each one of them justifies a lot of reverence, I was wondering what is the one fundamental thing, which was the homework given to all of us by the team, that India or the region must follow to solve or celebrate. You know, what earlier you heard from Sahana, a lot to celebrate, but at the same time, a lot of problems to be solved. So to build such a healthy society, you need a healthy spirit, healthy country. And that's when I was thinking, you know, we have to build a strong South Asia or Indian subcontinent. And that finally comes down to nutrition. And I was recently shocked, literally shocked, to come across one number, that the nutrition level of young people in India, the age group of 6 months to 24 months, is only 9%, as opposed to Vietnam, which is about 58%. The 9% of that group, 6 months to 24 months, get the right nutrition. In other words, 91% doesn't. So I often feel that to celebrate what we have discussed today, whether we talked about sports, we talked about rural culture and presenting that to the world, or whether we are talking about our ancient knowledge, which Shana talked about in Nalandas and Taxilas, and then we talked about also those, you know, fixing the clean India. I think we need a strong India to do all the work. And to build a strong nation, we have to ensure the nutrition that we manage, the food, the diet, I think has to be fixed. And it is not that people do not have the food, but what is the content of that food? What is the content of vitamins and proteins, which goes along with the carbohydrate and the oil? And I think there is a need for us to step back and go back to, again, what I would suggest, the Vedic nutrition formula, the Ayurvedic food. I think we have imported again a lot of oil, a lot of fries, and that is perhaps hurting the nutrition. So if one problem that we have to solve, I would like to see Boston Pledge launches a program along with others. I mean, it did not be one versus the other. All of them are important, is how to make people conscious of what is the nature of nutrition that we have to serve on the plates of India, particularly when it comes to children. You know, whether we talk about Olympics, whether we talk about Nobel Prizes, whether we talk about fixing some of the fundamental issues or cleaning up India, all of them are important. But who will do the work? It is the strong people. We need strong people with muscles. Vivekananda used to say, before we study Gita, we have to play soccer so that we can build up the leg muscles. And I think our muscles are weak. We have to fix it and we have to face it. And in the process, one of the projects we would like to undertake is the project nutrition. Thank you, Mother. It's all yours.
Thank you, Partho. Friends, I think you will agree that we had a very amazing conference today. In effect, you had about 17 speakers, spoke on 17 different topics, yet focused on South Asia. We had discussions on colonization, decolonization, and various other topics. Basically, we are all concerned about South Asia, the people of South Asia. And we also have heard some of the speakers what they expect from the Boston Pledge. There's a lot to do. We cannot do possibly everything. We can do something. Our job is to initiate. The job of the Boston Pledge is to trigger the minds of the people. Reach out to the people, tell them, you are powerful, you have the power. Initiate changes. You don't need a lot of people to come together to bring in changes. Vidyasagar was alone to bring in social reform. Ram Mohan Rai was alone to bring social reform. I think we had we are almost more than another 10 minutes will be having 2 hours. I'd like to thank all of you for speaking in brief. It is very difficult to speak your mind, put your thoughts in brief, and that's all of you have agreed to do it. And you have all agreed to listen to one another patiently. Before I conclude, I think I'll request Partho. He's very good at this. He can put all the things together, put on a thread, summarize the talks on different topics, put them together in one South Asia. Partho, please.
Thank you. This is a different spirit with which I like to engage with you, apart from the word nutrition I used before. That was my humble contribution to all the precious stones that you have laid out. Now I'll try to create a necklace out of the stones that you have presented to the region this evening. I know all of you spoke from your heart. There was a lot of passion, a lot of thinking, a lot of perspective. And I would like to particularly underscore that we connected with each other with a lot of reverence, because at the end of the day, it is the reverence for each other is what I think we have to bring together to build a great South Asia, to celebrate what Sahana was talking about, the Indic civilization, and indeed a lot of fermentation of thoughts, spirituality, morality happened over a period of, I would say, between almost 3,500 BC to 1080. We were not talking about colonization all in the context of the British. We are talking about colonization in the context of, since India was first invaded in 710 AD, and then onwards, we have been basically ruled by outside rulers. That's why the point about language, which Madhu brought up, becomes very important, because the common people of the country had to continuously adjust to the language of the ruler. So when you have gone through that process over a period of 1,350 years, your DNA gets transformed, because you learn how to adjust to the foreign ruler, how to serve the foreign ruler, sometimes in Persian language, sometimes in Arabic language, sometimes in English language, and often some of the ancient language, the Sanskrit or the Dravidian, and the branches that devolved out of it get sidelined. So I think that is the first problem Boston Pledge must take on. It is a difficult problem, but why should we take on easy problems? We take on problems which are difficult, and that's why we want to take it on, because it would not be politically easy, but we do not want to play politics. We want to talk, as I think Raj Pratha was talking about, we want to serve the truth from the heart. So that's one area I feel we have to work on, and we should try to put together a paper of what we have discussed today, that what are the fundamental obstacles that we have to resolve to bring a new conscience at play in the region. The second point which came out, and I literally applaud what my friend Ashok Desharkar had to say, and I think we should immediately launch Boston Pledge, the IIT, Pan IIT, Ashok, myself, all of us together in this team, Clean India, which connects with nutrition. If people are living in garbage, people are smelling garbage, people are breathing carbon monoxide and NOx every day in and out, in a world which is becoming more and more knowledge intensive, our IQ, forget the physical quotient, the intelligent quotient would also start suffering. So the cleanliness and the nutrition is something that we have to work on, and that could be one of the very important projects which I will request Ashok to anchor on behalf of Boston Pledge, on behalf of Pan IIT. And Ashok is a doer. I do not want to speak too much about him. I've known since he was in my class. We did chemical engineering together, and I would look forward to Ashok taking on that role. The third point, which I think Ram touched on, very important point, we do not realize that India is not made up of IBM or Infosys or HCL or Hindustan Motors or whatever. Any country, not only India, the country is made out of small and medium-sized entrepreneurs who are working day in and day out, not in cities like Delhi or Bombay or Bangalore, but in the small towns, in the small villages. They do not have jobs, but they are entrepreneurs. They have to feed themselves. I think to help them to serve is how Boston Pledge was formed. And I think we would like to launch a project with Ram, with your help, which we have been talking about, which we call the Entrepreneurship Springboard Program. That's what Boston Pledge has done for 20 years. But I think we could expand that with you to create a curriculum, which Shantanu and Raj is working on, which we call the digital platform, to have series of programs in mother tongues, in Marathi, in Gujarati, in Punjabi, in Kashmiri, in Manipuri, in Assamese, in Bengali, in Odisha, all the way to Tamil, to Malayalam. Why shouldn't we be able to do that? We say we are good in AI, we are smart, but these are the specific programs we should do. That's the third point I would like to take. The fourth point is very important, and the three women talked about it, and that's why we need a touch of feminism in the development of the new fabric of South Asia, or call it South Indian subcontinent, which is extremely important, the role of women. Now, I noticed when Anjum talked about it, he talked about in context of the borders, but the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. We have heard it from our childhood days. Women play a very important role to remove borders or to create borders, to revive the past. A lot of people ask me, how come there's so many great figures were born in Bengal during the Bengal Renaissance? I will say the answer is simple. It is because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Bengali mothers started reading Ramayana and Mahabharata to their kids when they're 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. They inculcated in that spirit the dream of the past, the vision of the past, a note which, by the way, Michael Madhusudhan wrote in his book. His first book was Vision of the Past, which was published in English in England, and The Captive Lady. So I think we have to bring the femininity into the center stage of India, whether we talk about it in terms of borders, whether we talk about it in terms of ancient scriptures, or whether we talk about how to create the character of the country, the nutrition of the country, because it is the mother who cooks, it is the mother who feeds. So I think we have to bring that consciousness within the women. That's the third takeaway. The fourth takeaway, I think, which is a very, very powerful takeaway, which I think all of you touched on, but you came from different angle, that we need a fundamental reset. But there are two kinds of resets we are talking about. One I would call institutional reset, which Sam Pitroda and Anil Kakotkar talked about, that we have to create the right kind of institutions where the institutions realize they're serving the people, they're not serving the bosses. Yes, sir, no, sir, whatever you want, sir, I will do it. That has to be put on the side. We are here to serve for the good purpose of the country. I do not know how much Boston Pledge could do on that front because we are not a political party, but through our writings, through our such conferences, we can raise the consciousness, and we should continue to do so. That's a very important point. And the final point which I like to make, this is my favorite point, that's why I'm trying to put together some of my lectures into a book, which is the point Anil Kakotkar made again. The nexus, it seems like there's a connection. So few people become rich, others become poor, and that's a problem of the world. Today, the world is more divided than it was 10,000 years ago, because 10,000 years, most of us lived in caves anyway. As technology came into play, a small segment started becoming richer and large segments continued to be poor. I think we are talking about challenging the science of economics. You know, economics is a new subject. It was highly influenced by Newtonian thinking. Newtonian thinking is moved to quantum thinking. And I think economics can no longer be a subject of transaction or subject of cause and effect. That if I increase tax, this will happen. If I reduce tax, this will happen. This looks like it is very mathematical, Cartesian. But human mind is biological. Human mind works differently in different parts of the country. The way an entrepreneur works in Gujarat is very different from the way an entrepreneur works in Manipur. And we have to recognize that. We have to move towards what I would call high resolution economics. And this is another thing under the spirit of building a clean India. We have to have a high resolution perspective of India, that every village is important. Every hut in a village is important. Do we have an understanding? We cannot run a country where from the North Block or South Block or staying in Vasant Bihar, we get conditioned. We believe the whole country is like Vasant Bihar. And I've seen that. I've interacted with such people. They, for a while, forget there are small villages in Bihar where people are struggling. And that's 70% of India. So I think the point that many of you have made today, we have to convert that into a specific program, which is related to sports, related to building muscles, related to building confidence, and related to building what I call not entrepreneurship, but the enterprising spirit. That yes, I belong to this world, I have to contribute. And we have done it. I'm glad one of you, I think Madhu mentioned Vidyashagar's name. That's a very, very interesting case study. I think the whole country should know about Vidyashagar. He came to Kolkata as a servant. Young boy came from Midnapur as a servant to work in a middle-class family. And he created the first insurance company of the country. He created revolution, literally reformed Bengali society, gave birth to what people call the Bengal Renaissance, one of the founding fathers, along with Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Rabindranath Tagore. But resources were not his constraint. He had the will. And the point that one of you made, and the beginning is desire, that is the first book of Rig Veda, the first chapter. In the beginning is desire. So with that, I'd like to humbly thank all of you for contributing from the bottom of your hearts to make a difference. And it's high time we make a difference, because if I put Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India together, we are talking about 1.84 billion people. It's a huge number. And we are talking about a country with 7,500 years of recorded history. It's a long time. Yet, it is a fact that when I look at the nutrition figure of 9.8%, which is something I did a lot of research, I was shocked that 9.8%, in case of Bangladesh is better, is 22%, by the way. In case of Pakistan, it is 10%, get the right nutrition of the people in the age group of 6 months to 24 months. So I think we have problems to work on, and I'm very glad to be part of Boston Pledge. But immediately I could see the Clean India movement is something I would quit India versus Clean India. The glory, the program that Joya has proposed. Well, should Joya, maybe we should team up to work with Sahana and Anjum to really bring some specific action. A lot of fun. We have to put our self-interest aside. We have to put our social interests in the center stage of our development. With that, I would like to thank all of you to once again, realize the dream of, Tagore's song. I think the word is Tabo Ashisho Maghe. We need to draw on the blessings, be humble, and in the process create a unified, powerful, and powerful doesn't mean rich. Powerful means confidence. And that's why we use the word decolonization. Decolonization means do not make judgment because others people outside have said he is good, that's why you are good. You should have the judgment to make a call based on what you believe is right. I feel sorry when Tagore even told that his popularity in India increased after he got Nobel Prize. He was the same Tagore who was writing poetries. Satyajit Ray's value in India went up after he was awarded outside. Why should that happen? Let's learn how to appreciate each other. And that is, I think, at the heart of the challenge of the country. So with that, with my folded hands, I would like to hand over to Devender to wrap up. Just thank Devender. And thank you for all of you to really bring some deep thoughts to ponder on and work on. We will work on. We will not just have, I think Ashok's idea is very practical. All the ideas are practical. We have to convert that. Great ideas have a humble beginning, and we should be comfortable with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ghosh. I thank everyone for the profound thoughts for making us feel richer. We have collated different perspectives, and with these perspectives, we will be creating the canvas that Dr. Ghosh often says, it's canvas of humanity that we all need to paint with different colors, bringing on from the different parts of the world. And thank you very much to one and all joining us from different parts of the world. And very soon we will be coming with another program, and we will keep on this journey moving. Thank you.